Oh my goodness. Welcome to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, let me get my stuff up. Hi, everybody. I'm Jerry Minor, actor, writer, comedian, director, and someone who's been lucky enough to work across television, film, especially live comedy over the last 2 decades. You might know me from Saturday Night Live, Mr. Show, The Office, Anchorman, Community, and currently Abbott Elementary. I played Mr. Morton. But those are all things that I popped up doing what I love to do, performing and creating. But this live stream that I'm doing today, first one is called Play in the Back of the Room. And it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I want this to be a space that artists can come and talk about their craft, how we work, how we think, and what keeps us going and what makes us laugh. All with some real time interaction, maybe hopefully from you, the audience, because this interactive element is going to be a big part of what makes this not just a show, but something special, a conversation that we're all having together. Tonight's a perfect example of what this show is all about. I'm joined by my good friend Dean Edwards, brilliant impressionist, stand-up comic, and fellow SNL alum. Now, irony is Dean actually joined the cast right after I left, so not only do we have a shared experience, but we also have stories from both sides that I'm sure that would be really interesting. This is the kind of conversation that I wanted to bring you every episode. Smart, funny, honest conversations with artists about their work and about their life. So let's get into it. I present to you Mr. Dean Edwards. If I can get to you.
Jay Minor,
How you doing, man?
what up? I'm chilling, bro. It's good. It's good to see you again. This is like in such a short period of time. We just had the SNL 50, and now we're getting to hang
Right?
out again, man. So thank you for inviting
Exactly.
me.
Exactly. So yeah, you brought that up. Let's talk a little bit about that. We were there at the 50th anniversary, and I don't know if you felt like I did, but a lot of people that I was talking to went there were like, "Man, I was kind of nervous, before I got here." We were at the concert. I saw you at the concert. Like, I
Yeah,
was nervous. I didn't know. I don't even know why I was nervous, but it was kind of like I had that performance energy, and I'm just coming to
that's
watch a show, you know.
right. Right.
And I don't know if you did you feel that at all, or I mean, you live in the city, so or I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
You in the East Coast, but yeah.
yeah. I live in Brooklyn, New York, and I think I think it was that the place is embedded in all of us.
Mm-hmm.
We all did a tour of duty in 30 Rockefeller Plaza, or in Studio 8H, and on the 17th floor, man. And I heard from other cast members, other like people that are stars of the show,
Sure.
and got a lot of shine on both the 50th concert as well as the actual show. And I remember speaking to some that said to me they couldn't, anytime they would get auditions at NBC, they had to go on tape. They couldn't. They
Wow.
psychologically were so affected by going into the building that they just didn't feel. They felt sort of a underlying trauma, and I think that just
Wow.
comes from. Well, you know as I
I
do
do.
that it's it's, I think Molly Shannon said it, it's like it's the Molly Shannon or Sherry O'Terry said it's the only show in Hollywood that you book and then you have to audition for it every week, right?
Yes.
Right, and then
Yes.
you're competing against your
The
your
funniest people.
friends and
Yeah, your
the
friends.
funniest people that
Yes.
that you've watched and you aspired to be like, and then you're like, damn, we gotta we got a battle royale and see whose sketch is gonna land. And so I can
Yep.
understand how people felt. I think I was more uh uncertain the few weeks leading up, because everyone I spoke to, I didn't get my ticket until the morning of the concert. I didn't get my ticket until the
Me too.
morning of.
Me
Right, I
too.
think everybody. I think
Yeah.
everybody did. But and then I didn't get definitive word that I was invited to the actual show until the week before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you're a producer as well, and so as am I. And so now that the smoke cleared, I said, oh, but you know what? They had to distribute limo placards to
Hmm.
everyone that
Hmm.
that had specific numbers on them that tied to you. So for anyone that's watching or that sees this, um, you know, I didn't realize how big SNL was, how big a deal it was,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yep.
Until the night of the show, and you realize they have blocked off the entire West 49th Street from, I want to say from Park Avenue. Let me see. I think it was. I think
Yeah.
from Park to Madison, Madison to Fifth, Fifth to
Hmm.
Sixth. So that means New York City had 5-0. The cops were out there, and each time the limo or the truck got to a barricade, the cop stopped. The driver had to check with the cop. There was someone standing that had the radio in to 30 Rock for them to
Hmm.
say what car number they have and the number, and then they said, and who's in that car. And I was like, oh, because if someone steals a placard, they can just go
You
in.
can
So
just
they
go in.
had to.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I, I although I don't think you wait that long to
Uh
to
huh.
to make everybody uh wait, or there's seems like there should be a more organized manner for them to reach out to everybody a month in advance. Listen, we didn't forget y'all.
Dean,
We didn't forget y'all.
how long did it take for a meeting to start? You remember how long it
Well,
took
just,
for a meeting to start? How long you have to wait for that? How long you have to wait
oh man,
for a pitch meeting?
right, for pitch meeting. Oh man, we just be sitting around. You're like, look, hold up, Jerry. I would get there. You probably like me. You were black at SNL,
I
so
know.
you were like, let me just show up early just in case.
People like,
Yes,
what are you
so
doing here?
I'm like,
Well, I'm here
that's,
because I'm here at the time I'm supposed to be. Even
yeah,
that,
man.
like people are like,
Yeah,
what are you doing here, man?
I was getting in there at 12, 1 o'clock, and everybody else not getting in there till 4 or 5 o'clock p.m. I was like, I don't want them to find, why did Dean not get here yesterday?
I know. Yes, great impression. Everybody
Yeah,
has
yeah,
one.
yeah, they do.
Uh,
Especially this,
yeah,
the
and
adjustment in
the
the scene.
short time I was there, I picked it up. Yeah, no, nothing. I mean, it's a part of the tradition. I think everything happens at the last minute. The show is done at the
Yeah,
last minute. The show's written at the
yeah,
last minute.
yeah,
And while I was there, because I had done a little bit of television before that, and had done a sketch show. I was
right,
done Mr. Show, so I saw a
right,
completely different kind of. That's the way you actually really do a show. Like
right, right,
people
right.
wake up
Yeah,
at 6, 5 in the morning. You
yeah,
shoot all day, you go home,
yeah,
you
yeah,
don't, but that show happens at 11:30 at night. They started doing it in the 70s when,
yeah,
who knows what they were doing, but they could stay up all night.
yeah,
And it's not that way, but they still do the show that way. So everything
yeah.
happens late, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah, man. Yeah, man. But it was a great that waiting and anticipating aside. I was just so happy, man. I was happy to see everybody. I was happy to see you. I was happy to see Horatio, Aristotle, just everybody.
Hmm.
Jimmy. I had just done. I did the Tonight Show in December,
Hmm.
so and that came from me running into Jimmy at Magnolia's Bakery, right?
Uh huh.
And so seeing Jimmy then, and then also seeing him, a month and a half or 2 months later. And while we're watching the concert, he's coming up. He's like, "Oh, dude, you did such a great job." I'm like, "Oh man, I appreciate that," and it's just it's nice to be remembered, and you like to think that anything you do,
Hmm.
you just read an amazing resume,
Hmm.
a resume that can't be really scoffed at. I'm like, dude, you've put in work, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
but that's the job, right?
Hmm.
And every gig that you do, I think, at least in my opinion, if I leave a positive mark on people, like when I see you, it's like, yo,
Mm-hmm.
That's and you're the same way. I'm like, you know what, we had some good times, and that's I think what you've done. That's what I continue to aspire to do each and every set or stage that I'm on. I just want to leave people feeling good and leave a positive impression on people, so that they're like, yo, Dean's a cool cat. He's a good guy.
Mm-hmm. I, I want to get into that, because that in your work, um, I mean, obviously, I know you from SNL and seeing some of your stand up and obviously your impressions. Do you consider yourself primarily like an impressionist, or do you consider yourself a comedian who does impressions?
That's
Um,
that's, that's always
oh.
that's always a popular inquiry.
Keep in mind that I'm an artist and I'm sensitive about my
No, um, I started. I'm a stand-up
Hmm.
comedian first. Um,
That's
I'm
what
a
I would say too. I
stand-up.
would say that too,
Yeah,
but
I'm a stand-up first. That I have a lot of tools in my utility belt.
Hmm.
Some stand-ups are amazing monologists.
Hmm.
I think when you look at, I don't know, like, okay, like using Chris Rock, right?
Hmm.
I think Rock has grown. I just watched anyone that sees this. There's a documentary on, I want to say, on like Daily Motion or Vimeo. Someone uploaded. There was a documentary called Chris. His special is called Bring the Pain, but there's a
Hmm.
documentary called Chris Rock's apostrophe Chris Rock's Bring the Pain, and it's a doc about the making of his special. and
Yes.
and and it opens with him saying, "Yo, I ran into Andrew Dice Clay at a Macy's near the underwear." And he was like, "Yeah, what are you up to?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm about to shoot a special for HBO." And he was like, "You don't seem excited." And he was like, "Well, and Dice said, 'Do me a favor, go home and watch Rocky. Go watch Rocky, and then after that you'll remember why you started doing this." And I was like, that's a great, that we all know Rocky because he came from nothing and he knew he had this one shot. And so Rock said, he was like, yo, he's like, everything can change for me shooting this one special. And so I, as a stand-up, I think Rock started out more as a monologist, but
Hmm.
when you look at Chris's growth, especially from his, say, Big Ass Jokes, his first half hour at HBO, to Bring the Pain, and then Bigger and Blacker, and most recent Netflix, he's added so many additional elements to his performance where he performs. He's not
Hmm.
just standing. He's not like Dennis Miller just used to just stand in one place
Hmm.
as a stand-up. Bill Maher stands in one place.
Hmm.
Seinfeld doesn't move a lot, you know.
No.
Um, but when you move and you perform, that just adds tools. And so for me, an additional tool in my tool belt was being able to do impressions, and
Hmm.
I learned that at a young age, and that's probably how I wound up in this, because I saw Eddie Murphy Delirious when I was a kid, and I think that spoke to us in a way that Cosby and Pryor hadn't. And
Yep.
don't get me wrong, I think um, the two, I'll say the greatest stand up comedy special in my opinion is Richard Pryor live in concert in 1979. Followed Patti LaBelle. Take that,
Hmm.
Eddie. This dude followed Patti
Betty
LaBelle.
Bell. Yeah.
Right, right. But I think Bill Cosby himself, I remember talking to Billy Burr about this, and he's like, dude, he's like, himself is on par. It's on par with it. And I was like, yeah, it is. It's just a difference there. There's different seasoning, but they
Himself.
go
Yeah.
through, yeah, they go through similar elements, man, and it hits just as strong. And so when I saw Eddie Murphy Delirious, number one, Eddie Murphy was what, 21?
Hmm.
So I saw that I'm a kid, and he looks like someone that's still within my age range,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
Whereas I see Bill Cosby in a brown suit. I
Hmm.
see Richard Pryor with the sweat marks under his arms, and he looks like and he got a thick thick John Holmes, Harry Reams mustache. He looks like a grown man. He got that porno
Uh-huh.
stash. Eddie Murphy looked like Run DMC. Looked
Hmm.
like what we were relating to, and so add to that he was doing impressions, and I'm like, oh, I learned. I watched Eddie Murphy Delirious that whole weekend. By the time I went to school Monday, I had some ice cream, yeah, and so I
Goony goo
related.
goo. Yeah.
Goonie Goo. That was raw for somebody that watches. Yeah, yeah.
Oh man, no. I just knew all that stuff, I had to apply it, like I'm
Yeah.
saying, Goonie Goo Goo. I'm like, I'd say that to, like that became part of our vernacular, like,
Yes, yeah, yeah. The
Lil,
whole thing. And
Lil.
it's funny because watching it now, you're like, ooh, he's saying some things. A lot of things
Oh,
like,
I mean,
yeah,
even
yeah,
then, I'm just like, I know him. You can see. He was like, when he
yeah,
just off says, my father was drunk, and this would
yeah,
happen every so often, where he would go off on the
yeah,
family. That is a scene,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, dude. I mean, when you watch the Nutty Professor films, and
Mhm.
then you go back in time and you watch Eddie Murphy Delirious, the whole segment from him talking about Bunny and his Lillian, they're just falling
Yeah.
down the steps again. Like that whole scene, I remember timing it, and I don't know if it's 7 or 11 minutes, but it's a long scene, man, and that just showed how dope Murphy, Eddie Murphy is. I said Murphy like we tight, um, but it just shows how dope Eddie Murphy is because this dude painted a whole scene, and we went on the ride, and so that's what I'm still chasing that. Like
Mhm.
anytime I do like a full on hour on stage on the road, I'm always going for. I want to leave like
Mhm.
because he just stayed. It was unrelenting, and to me that's when you don't give people a chance to come up for air. I
Mhm.
think that's the best. And so with the impressions, I always used impressions as seasoning. I wanted the respect of, and I've said this countless other times. I wanted the respect of other stand-ups. I didn't want to because
Mhm.
stand-up is a bunch of lone wolves that are jaded, right? It's
Mhm.
there's not um, you're alone on stage, right? And so because you're alone on stage, you live and die. You are the writer, producer, star, director, key grip, boom mic. You're doing everything, right? And
Mhm.
so because of that, you also get you if a joke fails, you got to take that on the chin. But when the joke kills and you get that laugh, you take it in, you're like, yo, I did that, right?
Mhm.
And so because of that, and it's competitive in that, I came up during a time in stand up when there was a slight hazing, but it was also a hazing to push you to be better, right? And so whether I had Rich Voss or Todd Lynn or Patrice O'Neill yelling in the back of the room, "Hey, you stink!" because you're Keith Robinson, "Shut up, stupid!" Jim Norton, like, "Oh yeah, Dean, you want to try that again?" But it made you quicker because you're like, "Oh, I want Greg Giraldo to respect my stand up." The impressions came easy to me; they always have. And so if I didn't have a joke to go with it, I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to just because to me, if you just are throwing out an impression that doesn't get laughs, that's just has people like, oh, that's so it does sound like him. I'm like, yeah, but it's not funny. I want funny.
What was your club? I'm a New York guy, and you just named a bunch of people. So I,
Um,
I was gonna say like your
yeah, yeah.
your crew. I wouldn't say crew. It's a little bit different, but the people,
Like
New
generation,
York,
yeah, the peer group, yeah. Like my main club would have back then would have been Boston Comedy Club.
Boston.
Back in the '90s, Boston
That's back in the
Comedy
day.
Club.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 right.
Hmm.
Because it's a restaurant now, right?
Yeah.
But Boston was the first. You know what it was, Jerry? It was the first mainstream club that I didn't feel like I was only doing the black show,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like a lot of the clubs, including Caroline's, which count to me, Caroline's was what you aspired. You were like, I wanna get on stage. I wanted Caroline's, and I wanted to do well at the Apollo. Those were
Uh
my
huh.
two like sort of things that I aspired to. And so Caroline's back in the days, Hot 97 used to went back in sort of the pinnacle era of like black comedy
Mm-hmm.
revolution of the 90s from Def Comedy Jam to Comic View.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Caroline started doing their one. I think it was a Tuesday night, and they had the Hot 97 morning show host Ed Lover and Dr. Dre came
Mm-hmm.
and hosted, and it was a big deal because you had everybody from Mary J. Blige to Angie Martinez to Q-Tip. Like you just had all these sort of celebrities of hip hop coming out and laughing, similar to what they were doing um, at Fat Tuesdays out in LA
Uh huh.
at the Comedy Store,
Comedy
right?
store. Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, and so that's where you like, yo, I did well. Yo, Q-Tip laughed at me. Yo, I made Angie Moore laugh at me. That was a big deal.
Uh huh.
But most of the other clubs, I had clubs that said, you know what, I already have three black guys. What
Black
do I
guy.
need another black guy for? Right? Look, some millennials are going to see this like, no, it didn't happen. Yeah,
And
it was
not in
very
a
blatant.
not in a mean way too. Like
No,
you gotta
it was,
understand, right? I mean, you wouldn't even want to be here with other
yeah,
black guys, would you?
right. Right, right. And they had no problem saying that. They would do that to if you were black, if you were Latino, if you were
Mm-hmm.
Asian,
Yeah.
if you were a woman,
Woman,
you know,
I got enough women. Yeah.
wo- the women were even worse because with the women, uh, if a stand up comedy lineup had say six people on a show, right? And that's stretching. But say a show had six comics and a host. At least three or four of them were white guys, right? One was black, one might be Latino, and there might be a woman. So y'all were vying. So the colors and the gender were
Mm-hmm.
the ones that were trying to like just get in, and so I felt even worse for the women comics because I was like, oh man, if you don't fit into this slot, and or they already have the slot filled, then your ass out. And Boston Comedy Club, Boston was kind of like, I think, sort of it was a little hipper, a little
Mm-hmm. Yep.
newer edge. So
Mm-hmm.
you would see shows where you had Dave Chappelle on it, and Tony
Mm-hmm.
Woods,
Mm-hmm.
and Reggie McFadden, and
Mm-hmm.
then Talon and Will had their black night. But if you were working the black night, there's a good chance you could probably get on one of the other nights and eventually
Mm-hmm.
work your way into the rotation. And so that's when I started cutting my teeth. And honestly, the comic strip, rest in peace,
Mm-hmm.
Lucian Hole. He used to say that to comics all the time, and I remember Lucian said to me, you're funny, you have amazing control of characters and voices, but you don't have any jokes." And I didn't take offense to it because you gave me a 5 minute audition set, and I was playing to win. I was swinging for the
Mm-hmm.
fences, so I did a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of my strongest things were the impressions. So I did them, and then after he said that to me, I said, "Well, let me work your club so I can become better." And so I
Mm-hmm.
started working there, and then that turns into me because once you were in one club, then other clubs saw you on the lineups and they would book you. So I was like,
Sure.
now I'm working at the Strip and Stand Up New York, and Caroline's is using me, throughout the weeks, and then Boston as well. So I could then work on my jokes, and I said I'm only going to do my impressions when I'm on the road. When I'm in the city, I'm just going to work on my jokes because I
Oh,
wanted to be
really?
better. I want to be better. Yeah, yeah,
Did you get were people coming to know you as the impressionist and
yeah,
get to know, and so would
yeah,
people be like, "Hey,
yeah,
man, where you know?" And I'm going to ask you about that too. Like, do you get offended when
yeah.
people are like, "Hey, man, do Denzel or do?"
No, no, I never been the type that gets offended if somebody asks me to do something because that means they
They
connect.
like
That's
it.
that's like you know when Prince was alive or Michael Jackson was alive and them getting mad. Someone said, "I love Man in the Mirror. I love Purple Rain." These are iconic songs. So somebody says to me, "Hey man, I love your Denzel," I'm not offended. I'm like, that means I did something that moved them, you know. And
Mm-hmm.
so, but that's also why I wanted to be able to go on. I wanted to be on the same stages as all those comics that I mentioned that I respected, and I wanted to be able to kill with my material because I knew if I killed with my material, that doing my material and my impressions, I was just gonna be a monster, you know. And I would also when I did the black rooms, and because I was doing
Mm.
mainstream rooms and the black rooms, the urban rooms, and I would always hit the urban rooms because I was like I want to know the pulse of my people.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be able to win in Brooklyn and Harlem and the outer boroughs, as well as in the mainstream, because I didn't want to ever have black people in the audience at the mainstream club like, what's he doing?
Yes.
You know?
I think, wow, it's interesting that you bring that up. And that's why I love having these discussions because,
Yeah,
having that within me, and I started off in different, I was doing Second City and doing,
yeah,
more, cast based kind of stuff. But, um, always having that feeling of like, what you were talking about of knowing you, say that again. Now,
Well, I wanted to be. I always say I want to be able to win in front of a black audience as well as a mainstream audience because I don't want to have to change. You know, people will say, "Oh, when
Mhm,
you know when you go to if you perform in China or if you perform in Saudi Arabia, you're not changed." I'm like, no. I said because my experience is a human
mhm,
experience
mhm,
and everyone. People have wives overseas, people have children overseas, people are frustrated with parts of their lives and celebrating other parts of their lives overseas. So I didn't want to have to make any adjustments. And but I always wanted to get, if you can't speak to your own people, who are you talking to? Like I need people to be able to, because funny is funny. Like
definitely.
funny is not like, yes, there are elements. So if you watch the Kings of Comedy with Bernie Mac and DL Hughley and Cedric and Steve, and you watch what's the Jeff Foxworthy one, the red
Mhm.
the blue collar
Blue
comedy. So
collar comedy. Uh-huh.
if you watch those, they're speaking with different nuances and inflections, but they're all speaking their own experiences,
Uh-huh.
and what they deal with. And so that's, the funny is there, but obviously there are jokes that that Jeff Foxworthy is going to say in front of the audience that came out for Blue Collar that wouldn't necessarily connect with the Kings of Comedy audience, and vice versa. There's things. I would challenge people that I think most uh, black comics specifically, but comics of color that haven't that didn't get those opportunities to just work in the comfortable spaces. I I believe I can go into any space more than a white comic could just go into any space because I've
Sure.
had to.
Because
I've
you had
had
to.
to. I live in a white world,
Mhm.
and so I've had to understand how I'm perceived and also how I perceive them, and then find a way to make it work. Whereas if you've never had to make that adjustment, it's jarring.
Mhm. Sure.
And there's certain comics like that's why I think there were comics back then from Billy Burr, Ben
Mhm.
Bailey, Russ Maneve, Jay Moore,
Mhm.
DC Benny. There were comics. Those comics I saw them in black rooms too, and
Uh-huh.
I think they gained more respect because they weren't afraid to get out of the comfort zone of doing the mainstream clubs.
It's funny. Right after I was at SNL, I was obsessed with listening to this. I think it was on one of his albums. This Richard Pryor. This you may have heard it. It's an
Hmm.
interview with him. He's sitting on the back stairs at the Comedy
Hmm.
Store,
Hmm.
and he had just gotten off stage. I forgot what he was doing then, but he's just talking about.
Cocaine.
I
So,
don't. It's
no.
one of the few times he's talking about his craft. He's talking about
Okay.
like, he's talking about how he didn't like it when he went up and he was just telling jokes and he wasn't really saying something, and he
Mm,
was just
mm,
like, I know I can get. He's like, I know I can always go up and just tell jokes. I know I can
yep.
always go up and just get a laugh. But
Yeah.
what are you doing? I didn't really respect myself unless I was doing this. It was really cool to hear him saying that.
Right. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then he gets off into some real crazy like stuff,
Hmm.
profound, like, religious stuff. But he says
Hmm.
also when he was starting out, and when he first started out doing stand up and his whole style, and you know what his style was, and when he went on the Ed Sullivan show, he was more of
Hmm.
a Cosby kind of comic,
It's
right?
Cosby. Yeah. Yeah.
He was hanging out with Red Fox in Harlem,
Hmm.
and they were walking on the street, and everybody knew Red Fox. They call him
Hmm.
Zorro. Zorro, hey Zorro. They knew
Yeah.
his nickname that he didn't even.
Yeah.
He's got a stage name anyway, and they knew his nickname. Like
Right.
he's not has another
Right.
name, Zorro. He's like,
Right.
all these people, these street people knew him. And he's like, and I wanted that. And that
Yeah.
was when he started to change and
Yeah.
and uh,
Yeah.
and change the sound. And I was just like, I get that.
Yeah.
At that time too, I had been so far away from any black rooms, all the stuff that I
Mhm.
started out in Detroit.
Right.
I'd done SNL, and I came out to LA, and I was doing Mr. Show.
Hmm.
I wasn't around no black people.
Right.
So at
Right.
that point, I was like, I gotta get back in here, and that was when I started working for Cedric. I started writing for Cedric.
Right. Right.
Uh,
That's where we had reconnected because
and I
I
saw you.
always
Yes,
yeah I remember because JB was on there, right?
yes,
JB was on,
yes.
yeah, and
JB Smoove, yeah.
that was a fun show. You know what, that was sort of my first my early entry into Hollywood because I remember that's when I learned, oh, people just hang out on sets, right? I
Not
didn't
that
know
much,
that.
not as much as we
No,
did, though. But yeah.
yeah, 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 right, right. But and that's definitely more of a Black Hollywood thing where because
Yes.
Jamie Foxx was there, and I
Yeah, yeah.
remember
Just hanging out.
yeah I remember watching and look, and I was like I felt like I was in because I was like, oh, we're in Hollywood, but I'm on a TV show, so I didn't feel uncomfortable being there, and I had met Cedric before, so I was able to just kind of talk to him, and I knew JB from, we both from Mount Vernon, and Jamie and I met many times over the years, and he was always real supportive. So I'm sitting on the side and watching. I was did Hugh Moore write on that show? I was wondering if I'm trying to think. Did Hugh or Ian Edwards write on that, or did we just go and hang out?
Ian would be around all the time, so he probably was
Okay,
hanging
okay,
around. No,
okay.
Hugh,
So
Hugh didn't.
that's
Hugh didn't write. I wouldn't remember if he wrote in the show. Oh, Hugh
okay,
Moore.
right.
Yes. No. Yeah.
Hugh
Definitely.
Moore.
Hugh Moore was hanging out. Yes. He didn't write on the
Okay,
show, but
okay.
he would hang out all the time. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's because that was my crew. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm with them. They're like, "Yo, we going JB shooting." So I was like, "All right, cool, yeah, I'll go." And then I'm watching them shoot the sketch, and Jamie's over there like throwing suggestions out. I'm like, you look, and I'm like, "Oh man, this is fun. This is
You
the
were doing
opposite of
You were
what we're
doing
doing."
SNL. No, I remember you coming. I was not nice at that. I remember then. I was like, I'm not like I am now. And you were like, "Hey man, I'm having, I'm at SNL," and I was like, "I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what
Yeah,
to do.
yeah,
I got no advice at
right,
that point
right,
because I had just gotten fired. I'm like, I,
right.
I got no advice, man. And unfortunately, the same thing was given to me by people who had like been successful on the show.
Right,
I saw Tim
yeah.
Meadows when I first came in. He was getting his stuff on the way out of SNL. I don't know why he had some stuff in the office. And he was like, "What do you think, man?" I was like, "It's great, man. Everybody's supportive." He's like, "Supportive?"
You know why? Because look, you were saying all the things you're supposed to say.
Yeah, well, it was like people were just hanging around the office. We hadn't really
Yeah,
started working yet. It was still
right.
summer. And he was just
Look,
like,
Tim,
"All right,
Tim
man.
left
Well,
like
good luck."
he's like, okay, you'll see, you'll see. Then look, I remember Tracy said one time Eddie Murphy was up there. Yeah, I'll take it. Eddie Murphy like was doing like Rosie O'Donnell or something, which was shot down the hall in I think 8G, and
Mhm. Yep.
And so Eddie just came and Tracy was shooting something and Eddie just he's Tracy, I don't know, it's Tracy, so you don't who knows if it's
Right.
fully true or if he exaggerated. He said
Right.
he said Eddie Murphy leaned Eddie Murphy leaned in his ear and said, "I know you're miserable," and left. "I know you're stressed." Because it was, I mean, it's a challenge, man. It was a challenge in space, and so, and look, because you and I, we met. I remember when we met, and this how out of the loop I was. Like when y'all were doing like some, it was VH1's Divas, and they were doing like uh, I don't know, some sort of sketch, like a We Are the World sketch.
Uh-huh.
And they needed a Lenny Kravitz esque. And I had a big afro, so I came on. I had no lines. I was just filler,
I
just
remember
in some
that. Yeah.
extra.
Yep.
And I remember Tracy introduced me to you, and I didn't. I worked on Saturday nights. I was doing stand up on Saturday nights or on the road Saturday nights. So I didn't know who. Like I remember meeting you. I remember meeting Rachel Dretch. I remember
Mm-hmm.
meeting Hugh Fink. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
know who anybody was, and so when Tracy's like, "Yo, it's my man Jerry," I'm like, "Hey, what's up, man?" I didn't know. I was like, "Is he an extra too? Or he might got some lines?" And so then the summer that everything happened, uh, I Comedy Central was running repeats, which
Mm-hmm.
was great. They were running like recent seasons, and so I got to, and then I was like, "Oh, this dude," and I was like, "Son, I've never told you." And I was like, "Yo, you were dope." I still to this day, and you probably don't know either why you weren't there anymore. I was like, Jerry's messing with one of Lauren's assistants. He was. He couldn't. It was that white meat that tempted him.
Well, yeah, but I don't know. Yeah.
No, because dude, I thought you were, I thought you were dope. I still think you're
Oh,
dope.
thank you.
My family and I watch. I was happy I saw Quinta Brunson at the SNL 50 because I just
Mm-hmm.
told her, I said, listen, we there aren't too many shows that we can watch as a family. I
Mm-hmm.
said, and I think you're doing an amazing job, and add to that it's created by a black woman,
Mm-hmm.
and there's so many, like, anytime I watch the show I'm like, yo, this is dope. Like how many young black kids get to act on this show, man. It's like revolutionary, and it's just seeing so much chocolate in reflected in a positive manner. We
Mm-hmm.
loved Good Times. We
Mm-hmm.
loved you know uh um uh geez, Rick Fox and Sanford and Son. We love What's Happening, but just seeing black people just get to be,
Mm-hmm.
it's just refreshing, and that's the goal, in my opinion.
You talking about family,
Yeah.
um, and I have a family too. You work clean, basically.
Yeah. Hmm.
Um, Talk about that, and when did you decide that? And there's a lot of comics. For a lot of comics, and I've talked to them about it. It was as much of a business decision as it was, I would say, business and personality wise. So most of the
Hmm.
comics I've talked to went, for me, personality wise, it don't work with me. It was my personality. So
Hmm.
in my business, it doesn't make sense for me to go on a road that just doesn't go along with my personality. It's not that not that it's a moral choice or anything like that. It's just like for me, it just doesn't work. Um, what's your stance or your opinion?
Yeah, for me, I just, I started a week or two before, if Def Comedy Jam premiered at the end of February '92 or
Mm-hmm.
early March '92. My first time on stage was February 21st, 1992.
Mm.
So it was like a week or two before the show premiered.
Uh
And
huh.
then once the show did premiere, the um, I saw how everyone just suddenly sort of made an adjustment. right? To this
Mm-hmm.
new energy, this new style. You
Mm-hmm.
know, it's like like it's like you know what it's like. It's like when Mariah started like dressing like half naked, more Lil Kim and less like I Had a Vision of Love, and you like you don't have to do that. You were winning,
Right? Everybody's doing, but
right?
everybody's doing this though. Yeah, right.
Right,
Yeah.
but you were winning at that, and so for me, I was like, you know what? I want to stand out. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to
Yep.
stand out, and plus, every young brother goes through his Malcolm X period where he reads the autobiography of Malcolm X, and so Malcolm said it takes an intelligent man to be able to communicate without using profanity, and I was like, that was heavy to me, and then and all this time, Def Jam is blowing up and making everyone that's on season one like hood famous, but also financially
Mm-hmm.
set at least for the next few years because that's who's going to be touring and doing theaters. And so I remember seeing the first Def Jam tour that I saw was Bernie was hosting, and it
Mm-hmm.
was Bill Bellamy, Adele Givens, Reggie McFadden,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then the second tour was
Mm-hmm.
I think Reggie might have been hosting, and it was like Angela Means, this dude Chris Charles, Chris Tucker, Hamburger, and like one or two other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because now Bill and Bernie they're doing theaters on their own. I'm like,
Yep.
oh wow, and
Yep.
so while that happens, I saw Sinbad. And
Mm-hmm.
Sinbad did it was Sinbad's um, uh, bell bottoms, afros and bell bottoms tour. It became an
Mm-hmm.
HBO special within the blue outfit, and this dude killed, man, and
Mm-hmm.
killed. And I've always been the type of fan of entertainment that when I go to watch a show, I'm watching what's happening on stage, but I'm also like looking up. Like last week, I just saw my wife and I went to see Mario, Neo, and Mary J. Blige. That
Uh-huh.
tour is out right now, and we've seen Mary a bunch of times. Tour was fire. Like show was
Uh-huh.
like Mary's a rock star. Like she was on the lift and it took her from one stage to the other stage. I was like, yo, Mary's come a long way from Yonkers, right? And and so I'm watching Sinbad, and he's killing. I'm looking at the audience. I'm like, they're white, and they're
Mm-hmm.
black, and there's
Mm-hmm.
some Asian cats, and they're Latino. Oh, she's real old. They're like teenage. And I was like, yo, he's getting everybody's money. And so for me,
Yeah.
taking what Brother Malcolm said and then mixing it with the Sinbad sensibility, I said, well, you know what, I'm gonna do that because if everybody that looks like me is going super dirty, I'm gonna be the antithesis of that and work clean. But I'm gonna stop cussing just period, just to make life easier. Because I also don't like people telling me what I can and can't say. And
Mm-hmm.
so I made the adjustment in my life so that I didn't have to now. Okay, well here I'm going to do my clean version of myself. No, just so I don't really use profanity in life. Like I have my joke words like for the mucker, or one of a sitch, I call this dyslexic cussing, duck my sick for the mucker,
It works just
one of
as
a
well,
sitch.
man. It works just as
Right,
well.
right. But it's just playing with profanity, and so from that, I mean, that's made it easier for me. So I can I can do corporate. I
Yeah.
remember being on tour with Maz Jobrani, and Maz
Mm-hmm.
like a big deal, especially in the Middle East. We were in Egypt, getting paid extremely well, and
Yeah.
people. It was like 3,000 seater, like I think 4 or 5 nights, or maybe 3 nights with 5 shows across those 5 nights. 3,000, so 15,000 people saw me, and there were hundreds of kids at every one of those shows, and I was booked on that show. It was myself, Ahmed Ahmed, I think
Mm-hmm.
Michael Winslow from Police Academy, he was a
Mm-hmm.
headliner,
Uh-huh.
and Maz, and and this dude, um, people had their kids out because of Maz. Maz is the one that
Mm-hmm.
got people to bring their kids out, and so they couldn't book it.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my friends on that show, but I could go, and that's kind of where I've been able to fit in and sort of set myself apart of many of my, I guess, contemporaries, is that I can work clean without having to make adjustments. So when people say, yeah, so we need, I'm like, you don't know who you're
I'm
working with.
here. Yeah.
That's
There
what I
you go.
do. Yeah.
I stopped thinking about it after a while. It's just like people like Nate
Hmm.
Bargatze.
Yeah.
I don't even think about it. Or you don't even
Right.
think about
Yeah.
it. I just brought that up because I was looking up stuff about you,
Hmm.
and it
Hmm.
says he works clean. I'm like, oh yeah, yes he does. But I never
And
even
that's
thought about it.
and
It's just
that's
serious.
honestly that's always been the goal.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want people to say the clean comedy of
Yeah.
Dean. I just wanted to be funny, and I just
Right.
wanted people after the show. Like, to me, it's refreshing when you have a mixed demographic audience, and then like an older woman comes up after the show like, "Now you know what? I want you to know. I noticed you didn't use all that language. Nobody else noticed it, but I noticed that." And I'm like, oh, okay, I appreciate the acknowledgement. And then on the flip side, like you said, people like, if someone says, yeah, Dean doesn't cuss, you're like, wait, you're right. Yeah, you're right. He doesn't, because you know who else didn't cuss? Rakim, one of my favorite
Uh-huh.
MCs. If you listen to Rakim's, first few
And
albums, he was talking about street life. He was
uh-huh.
talking about some gangster things, but he pushed himself. Rakim, similarly to Will Smith, he didn't use profanity, or the Fresh Prince, I should say.
Fresh
He
Prince,
didn't
yeah.
use profanity. Yeah, it was,
Yeah.
and I always thought that was impressive, that
Mm-hmm.
you could communicate the same ideas, and people didn't realize. If you say to most cats that came up on golden era hip hop, you're like, Rakim didn't cuss. They'd be like, yeah, well, I came in the door. I said, what? And they're like, yo, you're right. I'm like, yeah, he didn't use, because that was the challenge also, because they had different constraints. They couldn't, NWA broke that door wide open.
Exactly. It's like,
NWA, Schoolie D, like quote
yep.
Ice T, they
Yep.
pushed the envelope, but
Wasn't a lot of
Rakim,
cussing in rap back at the original, like, even like
no,
Public Enemy, the
yeah,
angriest stuff. It wasn't
yeah, yeah,
a lot of
yeah,
cussing in it.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And it's funny because Rakim, I was just like, yeah, but it also makes sense. I mean, you're not gonna be cussing in a bunch of supreme mathematics stuff. I mean, you got
Right,
that's
right,
you just hear
right.
Tim. He's like,
That's true too.
you're sullying my words with
Right, right. Right.
the. So,
What's today's mathematics? Father Mucker, you know what today's mathematics are. Yeah.
I want to ask you. I don't want to keep too much of your time, but
Yeah, I'm having a
um,
good time.
yeah, me too, man. Tracy, um, everybody had a moment hanging out with him, but
Yeah, yeah,
you knew him before you got to SNL, so you might have been a little
yeah,
bit smarter to
yeah.
where you didn't get like stuck in a club somewhere left. And everybody had this story of like, yeah, Tracy took me to some club, and then I was like left there, and he left, and I was stuck. I didn't know where I was at.
I knew better. I knew better. It was always funny being in the club with Tracy, because you learn earlier. You're like, oh, Tracy likes the whole court. He likes to be the center of the whole court. And that, as soon as I see a crowd falling around Tracy, I'm like, I'm just. And
before, before the shirt before the shirt
you
comes
don't
off.
say it before the shirt comes off, and you don't announce that you're leaving, because if you say, yeah, I'm about to go, why are you leaving? Why are you trying to kill my high? Stick around, hang out. You might learn
What's
something.
up?
I'm like, no, I'm gonna just like that clip of Homer Simpson when he just backs into the bush. That was me.
I remember I had a girlfriend. We were like, he was in his limo, and he was like, "Yo, get in my limo. You can ride with me." My girlfriend was like, she looked at the limo. She's like, I don't don't think we should. I don't think she's gonna be comfortable. So we'll
But hold
just
up,
we'll walk.
and you had your own limo.
No, that
No.
night I did not have my own
Oh, okay.
limo.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I got
Okay.
treated bad, but I didn't even have a dressing room when I was there. I just,
How many cast members were on when you were on? Was
it
it
was a
too
lot. It was
many? Yeah. Okay.
13. They dropped people because it was like me and Chris Parnell
Hmm.
left before you came, and then some other people left. So you had less people there. Yeah, it was kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
crowded,
Because
and then I think they opened up some stuff too.
we had like 15 or 16 people, and then Parnsy came back.
He came back.
And I was like, yo,
I saw that.
hold on. And then it was post 9/11. So now you just had former cast members just showing up. You're like, yo,
That was
beat
when
it.
that first. That's when that started. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I see
So
that now, and I'm like, man, how did? I mean, no, I ask people that are on the show now, and they're like, they're just used to
yeah,
it because when I
yeah.
was there, I'd be like, yeah, I got that impression. I don't know why, no. An Oscar winner now is coming to do it, but I guess
You're like, I got that impression, and I'm black.
right, yeah, well, yeah,
I
there
play.
you
I could probably
go.
play it a little better.
Well, you did. I mean, I didn't really do impressions. I did like obscure impressions,
Yeah.
just that. And I got
Hmm.
there, and they would be like, "Can you do Puff Daddy?" And I'm like, I mean, I guess, but it's not gonna be good, It's just I don't really
Right,
have that. You have like,
right, right.
how do you study people to be able to get the voice? Do you do like
Hmm.
Daryl would tell me because he helped me out a lot.
Hmm.
'Cause I did
Daryl's
Sharpton on
dope.
the
Daryl
show.
Hammond.
I had never done Sharpton, but I was like, I really want to do this
Hmm.
impression. So he was helping me. He's like, well, I see
Yeah.
some like I categorize my voices. Some voices are
Hmm.
like this. Some voices are like some
Hmm.
voices are orange. Some voices are red. Some voices are like that. And if I get
Hmm.
into that, because he's like, then he was doing some voices like, and you never knew that this voice was similar to this voice, and I'd be like, oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
And if I
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
that basis, then I can get into it. So
Yeah. Yeah.
how do you break it down?
I, I become more of a science later. Like it was always like I always feel like when people are like, so how do you? I'm like, man, I can, Maya Rudolph said, oh, you have perfect pitch, and I was like,
Yeah.
oh, she's like, yeah, she's like, you can hear something and mimic it, so you can, I can hear something and play it. I'm not a pianist, but
Mm-hmm.
I can key out a song on the piano just from hearing the notes, and so it's similar with impressions because if I hear if like Jay Z is just a strained voice, but if you listen to Jay Z and you slow him down just a little bit, suddenly it's not as much of a strain. And you sort of drag it out a little bit, and now suddenly you're doing LL Cool J. LL Cool J and Jay Z are the same exact voice. It's just one is more strained and one is a little bit slowed down. Real, and then you add the nuance of LL licking his lips and everything is fun. Is a giggle, but then if you slow it down little bit more, and suddenly you have Vinny Barbarino, John Travolta, and so those are just games I always play with my son. I sat in the corner a lot and played with my Star Wars figures and gave everybody a different voice. And so from just over time, you hear voices like, okay, so Erica Badu is up here, and so but then if you slow it down or you make it real fast, then suddenly it's Kevin Hart, right? You know, but but if you take it up, then it's nasally and suddenly be humble, sit down, and you got Kendrick Lamar, And so that's I hear him so and Daryl was I always appreciated Daryl Hammond because he was always helpful. I remember talking to him about it. And he was like, oh dude, I just watched tape. He's like, I just,
Yeah.
I have Dino Vidala in research, go get me tape. And the mistake that many people make when they're doing impressions is they study or they watch scenes from movies,
Mm-hmm.
and they're heightened versions of So whereas if you watch Denzel Washington in interviews, he all you know he's always trying to crack jokes because he thinks he's funny. But then you see him in Training Day, and I remember he said he was like most people aren't doing an impression of me, they're doing an impression of
Of
characters that I've of
hmm
characters, and more specifically, they're doing impressions of Alonzo from Training Day, and so
hmm
they're doing that thing. Whereas I'm watching, I'm a fan too. I'm a fan of like anyone I'm doing an impression of. I'm a fan of it. So as I'm watching them, you notice that Denzel, he uses his hands, and then if you're like a fan and student of him, you hear him say, I wanted to use my hands the way Al Pacino used his hands. And so you realize, oh, he came out of himself, the actor in him freed himself up and gave him something else to do. So you also, if you ever watch Denzel's movies, all of his characters have sort of an OCD because he's always turning the salt and pepper shaker, and he has to lay the spoon out and lay the napkin and fold it a certain way, and I'm like, I wonder if that's him manifesting in each of those scenes, giving him something active to do.
find your business.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is
yeah,
the acting
yeah,
school. Yeah, find your business in the scene. Yeah,
right,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah. So
Uh,
that's and that's also the actor in me, because it's like, again, taking it back to the tool belt. It's like, I don't want to just be, hey guys, how you
mm-hmm.
doing? I want to move, and I want to be physical. And even Ian Edwards said to me years ago, because I went through a period where I was sitting down a lot on stage, and he was like, "Yo, why are you? We were at the Laugh Factory. Why were you sitting down on stage?" And I
He
look,
is
I
like the
was,
Yoda. He is like the Yoda guy. Like I was not noticed the
yeah, yeah,
his slight Bahamian accent.
yeah, yeah, the Jamaican, yeah. It's like, yo, look, why are you sitting down? And I said, oh man, because I can, He was like, yeah, but you're a performer. He was like, your energy. And then this was the science behind it. He said, when you sit down, your energy dips. He's like,
hmm
but if you're on your feet, you're moving, you're active. And so then I started realizing, I was like, yo, anytime when I find myself sitting on stage, it's only to reset. And
hmm
then I I,
hmm
I, I, I mentally tell myself, stand up,
hmm
because we just our daughter is also a musician, right? And so she had a show last night at Sobeys, and I was watching some of the other performers, and some are newer. And I said to my wife, I said, yo, that's my wife right there, my beautiful wife behind me. That's the painting of her right there.
Oh,
Um,
she's AKA
yeah.
too. I just see.
Oh yeah, she's an AK. Yes, she is. Uh, she's looking right now. um, and
My sisters want this. I don't.
oh, your sister's AK as well.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay, Jerry Miner's affiliated too. Dip.
yeah.
AKAs have good taste in comedy. Shout out to the Whiskies.
Do you ski? Yeah.
Look, I know better than to say
Ski. Yeah, I know the other ski.
right.
Yeah.
Right. So watching some of the performers, like this one young lady, she started her show, and this isn't she's I think she was from she's from down south, and she's on stage, and she started the show seated. I was like,
Mm.
I don't know. I was
Mm-hmm.
like, because you read the room, because the
Yep.
crowd doesn't care. And I was like, you sitting down, you already are diminishing their energy. If they were here, you just told them, all right, calm down. But if you bring them too low, it's going to be hard to get them back up. So
There's so many things I would suspect that you've learned, especially from being on the road, that's like that. And I like talking about that kind of stuff. Now, as I've gotten older, I've gotten less into. I mean, I think the material works. I mean, is top, and what you're doing is the most important. But I'm really into the science of like why people are paying attention, what makes them pay
mhm,
attention, and you, as a stand-up, you have to do that. You're the only person on stage. There's no
right,
distractions.
right,
You know,
right,
I mean,
yeah,
even if you're a prop comic, you still got to know how to what prop to bring out at the right time, and
yeah, yeah. Like people clown somebody like a carrot top.
Mm-hmm.
or I'm sure people clowned, rest in peace, clowned Mitch Hedberg, doing the one-liners, and until they didn't, right? Because at
Oh,
some point,
that
in
dude
front of the
was
wrong crowd, oh, I love Mitch Hedberg,
a
man,
beast.
and it's fire.
Yeah,
But I'm sure when he first started doing it,
sure.
his style is very low key, and how he spoke.
Yeah.
People are looking like, "What's this dude doing?"
Right,
But he
right.
stuck. But he plowed through, and eventually you find that rhythm, and that's to me that's the magic of what we do, to mine out that laughter. And
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking, like, I'm so I'm so amazed by improv and sketch performance. Do you know Leonard Robinson?
Mm-hmm.
You know
Yep,
Leonard?
I
Yeah,
do.
like I really hadn't gone to improv shows until Leonard and I started hanging out, and then I was watching. I was like, yo, and I think it was Leonard and Victor Varnado.
Uh-huh.
Is it
Venado. Yeah. Albino cat.
Bernardo?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, dude. This is like the early 2000s. I saw them, and it might have been, I don't know if it was UCB LA or if it was like IO Improv Olympics,
Makes sense. Yeah,
and
one of those.
dude, and they and I'm funny, but I was watching like, yo, these dudes are nice. Like, there was such a mutual respect, because I
So
was like,
different.
because what they're doing, that wasn't a part of my wheelhouse, part of my tool belt. That's not something. So I have such a respect for you. I wanted to ask you a question.
Yeah.
Do you find, as an improv and sketch performer, that now you've seen the demographic in the audience expand to where it's more multicultural
Mm.
versus, say, the late 90s, early 2000s, where I would
Mm-hmm.
imagine it probably was more just very white?
Yep. Ah, it's very interesting you bring that up. And I was looking to to plug the show. I'm doing a
Uh-huh.
show next week at Groundlings in L.A.
Okay. Okay.
On the 21st, and I do the show. I used to do it a lot. It's called Black Version. I don't know if you know any of these people. Jordan Black. He was a writer at SNL
Yeah. Yeah.
for a season.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
his show. It's an improv
Okay.
show. Gary Anthony Williams,
Yeah. Yeah.
Phil Lamar,
Oh,
Danielle
he's
Gaither. Yeah, it's a
honest.
really good cast.
Yeah. That's a great guess.
Cedric Yarbrough.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, that's their cast. They do the show every not
Oh,
every
okay.
week, but they've been doing it for going on 10, maybe 10 years now. It's called the Black.
Wow. Wow.
It's called the Black Version.
I think I've heard of it. Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I've heard of it. I
it's
know I've heard of that collective. Yeah.
all improvised show.
Wow.
Obviously, you can see all black cast.
Yeah.
Where we take a suggestion from the audience of a movie, and we do the black
Mhm.
version of it,
Oh, that's
basically.
funny.
Yeah, yeah.
That's yo.
So
I
yeah,
gotta
it's
see
got
that.
this audience, man. It's like, and this is not my show, so I can talk about it and give them all the praise. I'm gonna be a guest next week, but
Mhm.
it's got this crazy young audience that's there every week, same people there every week. It's got like a
Okay.
cult following. Like they've done it in different places, and the audience follows them. They've done it.
Wow.
They've toured it a little bit too.
Hmm.
But yeah, the audience is just really into it, and it's always like
Hmm.
it's black kids, just
Well,
vibing,
yeah. I think that also speaks to, you know if people are aware of it, then they'll go, right.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine sketch and improv wasn't, in order to sort of pursue sketch and improv back when you first got into it, you had to really
Yeah.
want to pursue that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas now, you see it more in between SNL
Mm-hmm.
and obviously Mad TV and any
Mm-hmm.
other sketch shows that have come, along since then. There have been, comics that come from the major farm institutions of Second City, Groundlings, UCB,
Yep.
Improv Olympics, and so now you see more and more people that look like us coming
Yep.
through those worlds, and saying, "Hey, I have friends that want to see this too," you
Yeah.
know. And so is Quinta Brunt, is she from
She's
that
from the
world?
Second City. Yeah, she came from that
Second
world
City,
too.
okay.
You had people like you know,
Keegan Michael
Keegan.
Key,
Yeah,
yeah,
both of them, Key and Peele, were in the improv kind of sketch world. Yeah, and so now you're
yeah,
seeing people. They had television shows. You had Wild 'N Out,
right, right,
with a lot of my friends been on that. Yeah,
yeah,
and it's kind of gotten to the culture now where, yeah,
yeah,
you can have a night. It's still not the way it used to be, like when you go to Chicago and stuff like that. But I think it's being a little bit more accepted now, and
That's
yeah,
good, that's good.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
no, I'm
I don't
happy.
do
I'm
it as
happy to see
I'm
or hear
old
that.
now though
Yeah.
too, so I'm not out,
Right.
at the clubs as much as I used to be.
Oh, look, that's you getting them checks too. Getting that
Yeah.
ABC check.
Well, yeah, yeah. I'm an actor, so
Yeah.
I'm just now getting back doing stuff. I actually
Oh,
did
that's
a
good.
I did a play. I was doing a play when COVID started.
Oh, good, good, good. I like
Yeah, so now I had just gotten back on stage, and then I directed a play, or I directed
it.
stage. I directed Second
Mhm.
City a couple of years
Okay.
ago.
So,
But since I hadn't really done that, I'm just now getting back to doing stuff on stage. It's a
right.
lot.
How's
It's
it
just
feel?
like,
You missed
I
it.
mean, I'm still getting used to it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I miss it a
Yeah.
lot. But now, like I wasn't away from it enough to be like, I gotta get back out there.
Yeah.
I did a stage show with a lot of the cats from Mr. Show not too long ago.
Okay.
Bob
Okay.
Odenkirk, David Cross,
Mhm.
and man, that was so much fun. I was just like, then
Yeah.
it was just like my element, my people. We were doing like, some improvised stuff, and I was like, yeah, I need to
Yeah.
get back on stage. So
Yeah,
I started
man.
booking some
Well,
stuff. Yeah.
yeah. Once on stage, it's you can't help but miss it. You get that itch, And anytime I meet someone or run into someone, they're like, yeah, I stopped doing comedy. I say, yeah, but you still a stand up. You don't lose
Never
that
goes away.
itch.
No.
You don't lose that itch. It's I always liken it to Muhammad Ali as his health started, affecting how he moved and how quick he was. He still had the same mind. And so I'm like, when Ali was watching Mayweather Pacquiao fight, even though he couldn't physically move, I know in his mind he's like, oh, he should have slipped. He should have slipped and then pivoted,
Yeah.
because that's
Right.
that's what we do. And so as a comedian, because we're all comics. It's just different, schools of
For
comedy,
sure.
whether it's sketch or improv or stand up or what have you. You always your comedic muscle is always working. Where anytime I see someone that I think is funny on stage, I'm like, they could have done this, or oh, I wish I thought of that. Right?
I
That's the
mean,
best.
I don't do stand up that often. The last time I did it,
Uh-huh.
it was years ago, about 10 years ago. I don't know if you know Dana Gould, but he
Hmm.
was in the
I don't know him
audience.
personally, but of course, yeah, I'm familiar.
He had done a show, and
Hmm.
and whenever I did stand up, I'm always it's just a big goof around because I'm not trying to build material or nothing like that.
Right,
And usually when I would go up in the stand up clubs, I was doing a bit anyway. I do character bits or whatever. But that night I was
right.
doing stand up. I was just
Okay,
messing
okay.
around. And he came up to me afterwards after my set, and he was just like, "Man, if you just did one thing, you know what? Don't worry about it." And I was like, "What? He was like, "I'm not gonna give you a new career." Like I can just tell you, but I know I could tell he was going like, if you just cared about this,
Right, right, right,
you
right,
could
right,
do you could do this.
right. Which
Um,
is the highest praise, right? Is
yeah,
someone
yeah.
saying, you're goofing, but you actually have a talent. You're funny.
I feel like people, and in the same with acting, and I've seen stand ups who are like, and I'll say his name, Nick DiPaolo. When we were doing
Hmm.
Lucky Louie, he would be so in his head about his acting.
Look, I'm scowling. Yeah, I'm scowling like Nick. Yeah, yeah, whatever.
Yeah, yeah. Not all of us are the best actors, but And I would be like, Nick, man, if you're not a bad actor, just do it. Just do it. Don't let
Right,
anybody tell you you're bad.
yeah, right.
You are funny. I see you on stage. I see you can
Hmm.
transform. I
Right,
see you in a bad mood and then get up on stage and turn it around. I'm like, he was in a bad mood, and then it don't look like it
right,
at all.
yeah,
He's like doing his
right,
set.
right,
You're
right,
an actor. You're an actor. And you
right.
just got to learn how to do that in this.
Yeah,
Um, but you got to you know we're performers,
Right.
and I've always felt that way. You see somebody as talent sees
Hmm.
talent, you know.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
um,
Game recognized game, man.
thank you so much, man. You so talented. I don't want this to be the last time that we hang out, man.
Oh, look, it won't be. Shoot, I'm the first, but I look forward to returning. You know,
How often are you out
absolutely.
on the road?
I probably during the month I'll do probably 50% of the road during because I it varies, right? I do clubs. I'll probably do
Mm-hmm.
5 or 6 cruise ships a year, where I'll do
Wow.
like 5 or 6 2-week runs with Norwegian.
Mm-hmm.
Because that gives because I get to bring my wife on vacation and act like I planned some big thing out, right? Um,
Ah, you're doing the
but
Gaffigan thing, yes. He brings his wife on the road.
yeah,
Oh, you mean just
yep.
like the
Oh,
just as a vacation? Yeah, yeah.
well, yeah. If I'm going a week, I'm like I'd rather you know the, my beautiful wife with me, as opposed to me just FaceTime and video chatting, every night. I'd rather you come and then we have an experience
Definitely.
together. And then the clubs, and then I also, also, like you said in your you like great questions too. I normally don't read them. I was like, yo, Jerry did research on these joints, man. Yeah, man.
Open AI. Open AI.
Yeah, yeah, man.
No, I
It's
just told
great.
it like, hey, I want to do this. I want to
Yeah.
talk about this. I want to add, and it's
Uh huh.
Dean Edwards, and it's me,
Uh huh.
and OpenAI was like, oh, you two should be talking.
Oh, that's funny.
The computer
That's
said
funny,
that.
man.
This is gonna be great.
Oh wow, that's yeah, dude.
Isn't that crazy?
It's great. Yeah, it is. And I'm working on. As you mentioned the play. I'm working on a play. We a few years ago we put it up for during the New York Theater Festival. It's called Race the Movie the Play.
Mm-hmm.
Racism solved. You're welcome. Right? It's a spoof. It's a spoof of all of Hollywood's uh, uh, Oscar bait race movies, from 12 Years a Slave to Driving Miss Daisy to The Help to Django
Uh-huh.
Unchained. And so we've thrown all of those amazing writers, Brett Raybould and Christian Durant. They wrote this thing that started as a sketch. It started as one sketch that turned into multiple sketches that turned into a full-on they screenplay. They won a contest. Uh, Hollywood said it's great. It can't be made. It's too visceral. It pushes too many buttons. So they said, like comics do. All right, well, let's bring it to the people. So they entered it into a screen theater contest. They adjusted it to a play. Um, we wound up running during the New York Theater Festival and won. I got nominated with my co-star for Best Actor, so we both got nominated for Best Actor. They gave it to the white guy. Um, we also won Best Script, and we would have probably won Best Play, but our show ran long, and so we got disqualified from it. But that then turned into in 23 we did a run at the Soho Playhouse that got extended, and we would have gone longer, but I learned that theater really doesn't pay that well when you're
No.
starting a show,
Yeah.
and I was like, I gotta go make some money.
Yep.
But now we have investors. We have a producer. We have a producer who's worked on a bunch of shows on Broadway, and so we're looking. We'll probably end of year going into 2026. We're looking to put the show back up. We just sat with a dramaturg. I just learned what a dramaturg is,
Uh-huh.
and the dramaturg really helped us make it more theatrical, more for the theater. And yeah, I'm proud. I'm proud. I'm extremely proud and excited because those last few weeks that we ran it, we sold out of all our shows the last 2 weeks, and people's response to it. And we had a nice, I love a varied demographic, so we had everybody in the house, and everybody was leaving feeling like they just saw something special that left people talking and discussing race and our not only our obsession with it, but how we can move past race and become more unified. So I'm very proud of Race the movie, the play, and obviously I'm a stand up.
Well,
You know,
yeah,
obviously stand up. Yeah, always stand up,
awesome, man.
and we're working on where we have something that we're pitching that we've been working on for a few years that I'm excited when 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 it comes. Hopefully, Quinta will allow you to come play with us as well, man. Because
Yeah,
I think
definitely.
you're hella talented, and I use you all have what y'all are doing on ABC for a sitcom, right? Is I think y'all set the bar so high, and there's so many. I also love. I'm praising you and your crew because the amount of jokes that y'all squeeze in such short bursts is magical, man. That's alchemy. That's like
They
the
got some
way.
good
And
writers,
you yeah, man. I know Morgan Murphy. I know she
Morgan.
works on there. Yeah,
Hmm.
and excellent writers. Excellent. It's amazing if you have the right writers and then the right performers. And I love the fact that Cheryl Lee Ralph is getting her flowers after such an amazing and illustrious career. She's getting all the roses that she deserved 30, 40 years ago.
Yes.
She just got her Hollywood Walk of Fame. So I'm like, yeah,
Yeah.
she should have had that. She should have been had that.
She's
So
awesome,
I'm
man. I
happy for
mean,
y'all.
she's so
Yeah.
laid. Like you wouldn't even. I can't describe. She's kind of. You wouldn't even expect it. She's kind of just silly.
Uh-huh. Oh, really good.
Yeah, I don't even know if she's just like
Love
it's just
hearing
part in
that.
her career or after you win an
Yeah.
Emmy or whatever. But she's just
Yeah.
like, yeah, it's just all rose off her back, man. She's the nicest
Right,
person.
it's comfort, man. Like how many times, and especially coming from SNL and seeing so many quote unquote stars and celebrities come through, and then you saw like there were also like younger starlets and ingenues that came on, and they were like extra. You're like, why are
Yeah.
you acting like that? And then you have like De Niro and Sir Ian McKellen coming. They're just like having relaxed and having a good time. And you're like, and honestly, those are people I was like, I want that's how you wear it. I want to be like that. So I always talk to like young comics. I always if I see somebody say something funny and I'm in the room and they're newer, I'll tell them, yo, that's funny because I know when you leave a positive impression on people, you give them something. I've had comics come up to me say, "Man, you don't remember this, but man, we were at Hyenas in Dallas years ago, and it was the open mic, but you were there the night before because your headliner weekend started the next day. But I guess you flew in to do media, and you were in the back of the room, and I did this joke." And you laughed so loud, and I thought someone was just being funny, just clowning me. And then after the show, you're like, "Dude, yo, that funny that joke, keep doing that." And I've had comics come up to me and do that, man. And I'm like, well, you know what? I'd rather encourage someone because it's the the circuit is small. We
It's
all
so
we all
positive.
yeah.
That's so
Well, why
great.
not?
Well, I mean, we're in this venue. I loved, and this is what I wanted this to be. This is
Yeah,
about we're talking about comedy because so much on the internet can be negative. And
yeah,
uh, uh, Dean, we could have turned this into a completely different. You could have came out with all the tea.
yeah.
You know what
Yes,
I'm saying? If I
Yes,
have you
yes,
on my
Queen.
if I have
well,
you on
you
my
know what?
show,
It's funny that you would say that because I said I could only read 3,000 books and I was undercut. And I read about 6,000 books a week. That's what I'm reading right now. I'm
can't no,
reading right now.
come on. You see you
Sir, sir,
still
sir, let me. Do you see the AKA behind me, sir? I have come to a point in life where I don't lie about people. Everything I say is a fact.
uh, I can't deny that. I can't deny that. Skip. Let me stop before he finds me somewhere. I meet him and
I know,
wrings
right?
my neck. I'm like you. I like the people that I impersonate. So
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm a fan.
that you know what, and that actually not to keep you any longer, but that actually like makes sense. And why you get such a conversation, why you're so good. And
Mm,
notice is that you get the conversational tone
mm,
of the person that you're doing, not necessarily the performance tone, but the
right.
conversational, the way they
Yeah,
talk,
yeah, yeah. That I
the
think
what they do when they're
that's the
relaxed.
pocket. Right, right. Because I think there's more. Because everyone's going to play that the popular character the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone like the lay person. I think that's also our job, right? If people are paying money, then they don't want you. They don't want to see you do what they can do. They
Right.
want to see you push a little further to make it an experience, and so in the at the end of my special, Tiffany Haddish Presents on Netflix,
Mm-hmm.
like that's a whole. I remember Roy Wood Jr. text me. He was like, Negro, you just did a whole scene, and and that's for comics. That's the ultimate. That's the ultimate compliment, right? We don't just say
Yes.
we don't say, oh, that was funny. We like, oh, word, that's what you're doing.
Do
You making me have to work,
All
you know.
right. Yeah.
And so I was always a fan of the. I mean, we spoke about Eddie Murphy doing that back in the days where he had a whole long, you know, 7 to 12 minute routine talking about his aunt and his uncle and his drunk dad and Charlie. Roll Charlie around, he'll be all right, And he did, and the Goonie Goo Goo twins, he did this scene with
Mm-hmm.
all these people. So my joint, I was like, it was coming up. We shot that during COVID, and so I was like, here's my impression
Right.
of what is it? Here's my impression of a Zoom call with Monique, Tracy Morgan, Denzel Washington. I think I wanted to. Don Cheadle might have been on there. Chris Rock and I can't remember who else. I don't know if Will was on there or not, but and just the interplay, because then that makes it fun for me.
Yes.
It's fun for the audience, but it's also fun for me, managing and keeping my thoughts organized enough, and that's the fun. That's also because it's like boom. I want people to know I'm funny, but I want people to know I'm funny and I'm talented, but I'm also an actor. So I'm like spinning all of these and doing my best to make these into something that people haven't seen before.
I'm so glad to give you another place to shine. I just hope the best for you, man.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Man,
Thank
it's
you.
really good to talk to you today. Really good to have a
Likewise.
positive and hey, I mean, just a lot of information that you gave people. I tell people, comics like they like to talk about what they do. They
Yeah,
really
yeah.
do.
No,
If you can get
we
them,
love
that's how I started.
we love
Just going in the club.
yeah.
It's like, hey,
Yeah.
how do I
Shoot,
get into this?
Judd Apatow, man, that dude. I mean, when he was a kid, he was just a
Mm-hmm.
nosy, inquisitive child, just bugging comics that were coming out to Long Island, and
Yeah.
he interviewed all of them, and now they all want to work for him.
Yeah.
That's
Exactly.
and hopefully people treated him right. Like, can you imagine being one of them road dogs and you were just nasty to him, and now he sees you in a club, he's like, "Hey, Judd, you remember I ran into you at Governor's? I remember."
Everybody's got stories. Everybody's got stories of like, oh, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. I got some famous ones I can tell you off here. Anyway.
yeah, yeah.
Good to see you, man. Like I
Likewise,
said,
brother. Likewise. Likewise.
don't be as if anybody else cares. Don't be a stranger. And
Yeah, yeah, man.
when you're out here, hit me
I,
up if you're on the road.
I definitely will. I definitely will, man. I'll definitely. So I'll probably be out in June, so I'll definitely hit you up. Let's go grab lunch or
Yes,
something.
let's do it.
Or hopefully they're doing that show. The sketch show you just mentioned. I need to see that because that
Oh,
joint
black
sounds
version.
black version.
That'd be
That
good to
sounds
see.
so good.
Yes, that would be good to
Yeah,
see. Yeah, yeah. If
yeah,
you ever
yeah,
get a
yeah,
chance,
yeah.
man, check it out. All right,
Cool,
man.
cool. Definitely, definitely. All right, Jerry, stay up, man. Appreciate
Good
the
to see
invite.
you. Yes, thank you,
Congrats,
brother.
and I wish you much success with this show and in all your endeavors, man. Keep doing your
Thanks,
thing.
brother. See you
Oh,
again. All
well,
right.
love it. All right,
I'm gonna rant at
peace.
these people for a minute. Peace.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh man, that was great. Dean is just awesome. He gave me the opportunity to interview him. I saw him at the 50th, and I was really like, I went through a lot on who would be the first guest, you know. So you know the type of people that I want to bring on, you know. I'm not necessarily looking for fame, but I am looking for people who have done a certain amount of work. You know what I mean? Like, you might not know them, but these people, I'm looking for people who are seriously into this business and who have been doing this for a while, who can actually talk about it. And Dean was a perfect first guest. I didn't know a lot about him. We hadn't had an opportunity to talk a lot, but I knew he's friendly, and I knew we would be friendly every time I see him. It's a great conversation, and I knew there would be information that I would be really happy to learn from him, and likewise, and it really turned out to be that way. So look for us look for me next week. I always talk to some of my friends on Thursday mornings. This kind of thing will be popping up as people's availability makes it available for me to be able to interview them. So you may see me in the afternoon like this. You may see me at night. I like to keep it to the daytime, but we'll see. Well, once again, hey, thanks a lot for joining us, and see you next time. Oh, and yeah, I'm gonna do some more comedy in this too, right? All right. How do I get out of here?